What's up, guys? We've got official BAJHEERA'S ARMY Twitch shirts for sale. Check them out at teespring.com/twitch/BAJHEERA'S ARMY. Enjoy! Hey, what's up, guys? BAJHEERA here. Sorry I haven't been able to stream for the past 2 days. I've been feeling pretty under the weather, and as a consequence of that, I ask that you will excuse any violent coughing that may occur during the course of this video. I'm gonna try to speak slowly, not get too emotional, but the patch 6.1 PTR notes have been released on MMOChampion, and in the past I've done videos where I just pretty much scroll through all of them. I'm mainly interested in the class balance changes, you know, what's going on with the particular classes. So if I can do this, I'm going to try to man up and do this for both of us. Let's go for it. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through all this stuff about pet battles and achievements and whatnot. You guys are definitely more than welcome, if not encouraged, to go check out MMOChampion. This should be on the first page, and if you guys are watching this a little bit later on down the line, you can find this, you know, just further down. So the first thing that actually has to do with classes is going to be item set bonuses. So the Fortitude bonus, which is when you have your 2 trinkets equipped, you'll be taking 15% less damage from players, up from 10. So that's going to be important, especially considering as we scroll down, you're going to see some pretty interesting decisions being made in terms of which classes receive damage bonuses and which classes receive damage nerfs. So it's up to 15. Some of these things, keep in mind, might just be tooltip changes. They may already be in the game, and this is just being reflected in what's actually you can see on your character sheet. You can see here the Druid 4-piece balance set is now when Star Surge hits a player, the cast time of Starfire is reduced by a percentage. This is not 0%. And the damage of Wrath is increased by 30% for 6 seconds. So these are completely new set bonuses. So it looks like whenever your Star Surge hits, your Starfire is going to have a reduced cast time, and the damage of Wrath will be increased for 6 seconds. So maybe you can choose to maybe even cast a few, I guess the idea is to cast a Star Surge, maybe a Wrath as well. More experienced, you know, Boomkin players have to tell me what that's supposed to be. And by all means, guys, if you guys have feedback on these changes, feel free to use the comment sections as like a sort of forum to voice your opinions, because I want to hear them, and definitely it's going to be interesting to see what you guys have to say. Moving on, the Mage Warlords of Draenor PvP bonus for 2 pieces is when you cast Cone of Cold, a patch of ice is left on the ground below the target for 6 seconds, slowing any enemies in the area by 50%. And it looks like they just have the same thing right here. When you cast Cone of Cold, you got a giant ice patch slowing enemies in front of you. That might help mages kite their opponents more effectively. I mean, right now as a warrior, I feel like mages have plenty of roots, but you know, I understand that mages aren't in the strongest place at the moment. That being said, they're still, you know, the rank 1 player is a mage right now, so it can be done. But I feel like a lot of changes are made for the general population rather than the elite few. So maybe there's that taking place. In addition to that, the Frost 4-piece bonus, Frostbolt now deals an additional 30% of damage to snared targets. Now I don't know what the Frost 4-piece was offhand, but I think that these are replacing what the old one was. Moving on, the Windwalker Monk 4-piece bonus, now Touch of Karma now has a threshold of 100% of your maximum health. I'm not sure what it was before, but I guess that means that you can at least Touch of Death someone for your full health. Sounds pretty brutal, but it makes sense. I don't think that was any more powerful, less powerful than it was before. It also has a new 2-piece bonus for Brewmaster as well. When you use roll, the energy cost of your jab is reduced by 30 for 4 seconds, up from 3 seconds, so hooray. The Paladin, for the Holy Paladin 4-piece, each holy power spent on Word of Glory reduces the damage taken by the target by 5% per holy power spent for 6 seconds. And this is a change that I've heard about before, and I think it might just be either is it now being instituted or now that just the tooltip is going to reflect it. Is for Rep Paladins, when you cast Wings, instead of all incoming crowd control effects on you being reduced by 50% in 15 seconds, it's going to be 25% in 15 seconds. And if we skip down a few, we're going to see that there's a very similar change to the enhancement 2-piece bonus, but instead of Wings, it's when you pop Wolves, the CC is reduced on you by 25% for 30 seconds. So big cooldowns for those 2 classes will reduce CC on you by a quarter instead of a half. In addition to that, for Rep Paladins, their 4-piece bonus, spending Holy Power increases your damage and healing by 2%, down from 3% per Holy Power spent for 4 seconds down from 8 seconds. So looks like kind of nerfs for rep paladins, but if you'll bear with me, I've taken a brief look at some of the changes, and you don't have to worry about too much for rep paladins. Let's keep moving. The 2-piece discipline bonus is penance channels for an additional 1 second, and it generates 1 stack of evangelism. Instead of saying stacks of evangelism, it says 1 stack. I don't think that's an actual change. The item proc haste rating, your melee and range stacks have a chance to grant 1,000. Instead of 1,000, it's saying 114. If that's actually what happened, that's a huge change. But I feel like the numbers might not be right, but maybe they are. We'll see. And we already talked about the Shaman one. So it says unknown class, glyph of inner fire. That's, you know, sounds like a priest. That is now called a prime glyph instead of a major glyph or something like that. Same thing with inner sanctum. They're being called prime glyphs rather than major glyphs. There's glyph of Ember Tap. Ember Tap heals you for an additional 2% down from 5, but the health is restored over 10 seconds. That's a big glyph, so you can choose for a hot. You can have a hot instead of... Well, actually, looks like there's no change to the hot effect. It's nerfed. Okay. Glyph of Holy Nova. It looks like it is dealing about half of what it used to do in terms of the way it scales with your spell power, so that looks like a pretty big nerf there. Glyph of Ignite. Name changed from Glyph of Frostfire Bolt to Glyph of Ignite. It reduces the cast time of Frostfire Bolt by 0.5 seconds. It's a major glyph. And now it's saying causes your Ignite to also slow the target's movement by 40%, which is a major glyph. Okay. And Ignite name changed from Frostfire Bolt to Ignite. So I wonder if that's just for Fire Mage, because I don't know if other mages have the ability called Ignite. You know, I've never played a mage, call me a noob if you must, but that sounds like a Fire Mage thing. And I imagine that a Frost Mage might still have Frostfire Bolt, but who knows. There you have it. Death Knights. Okay, so here's where we get into the sort of perhaps questionable in my eyes decisions. But keep in mind that my opinions are coming from mainly a PvP player. I mean, I don't really care as much about how things scale in PvE, because I feel like I'm gonna do PvE however well my class does. You know, I feel like that's, you know, up to me, up to my gear. And class performance in terms of the way I raid and with the way I PvE doesn't really come into like the absolute maximum potential of the class doesn't really come into play, because, you know, I'm not like, you know, going for progression right off the bat, mythic content or anything like that. I'm just trying to PvE to have some fun. But in PvP, that's where a little bit more of my focus shines through, and that's where some of these changes don't really make sense. So let's have a look. So I'm not going to read everything, like, you know, every word of every tooltip, but what you can see when you're going down the line here is Blood Boil for every spec of Death Knight has been buffed. You don't really use Blood Boil all that often anyway. Death and Decay looks like it might have gotten buffed a little bit. Death Coil for Blood and Frost looks like it's gotten nerfed in terms of the AP scaling, but yeah, so in both cases it's been nerfed in terms of its AP scaling. And Death Coil as Unholy once again has gotten nerfed. So the weak spec for PvP of Unholy has been nerfed, and then things like Death Strike were buffed for both Unholy, Frost, and Blood. So Death Strike received buffs in terms of the amount of damage it does. Now, you don't really use Death Strike as a damaging ability when you're playing like a Frost Decay. It's more of like a survival thing, but still. Looks like Defile has been buffed a little bit. Lichborn, the way they're making this look is, I think it's just like they're changing the wording of it. Necrotic Plague has actually been buffed, which is interesting. A lot of people didn't like Necrotic Plague for things like Unholy, but judging from the Death Coil nerfs, I'm not sure if people are going to be playing Unholy anyway. And it's scaling off your attack power, and your attack power can reach absolutely ridiculous values, especially if you're playing like a Frost DK and you have the Scabbard of Kainos. You can literally double your strength, and I think your attack power is like double your strength anyway, so Necrotic Plague could be ticking for even harder as it scales off your attack power. And I'm sorry for making this seem really boring. I feel like I'm talking in monotone, but like if I have any sort of like pep to my voice, I'm gonna start coughing up a lung. But we can keep going. Hopefully I'm not boring you to death. Blood, the scent of blood. Your Blood Boil instead of Pestilence. Your Blood Boil and Soul Reaper increase the healing done. Okay, so instead of Pestilence, it's Blood Boil that's giving you the increased Death Strike. Healing? Correct. Okay. And Frost. Here's another thing I'm talking about. So they nerf Unholy, which is a weak spec in PvP, and then they buff Frost. They buff the Howling Blast. Now it's not like a huge deal, perhaps, but I mean, a nerf to one class and then a buff to the other that's already doing well. It's kind of interesting. And as we scroll down here through Unholy, we're gonna notice that you know, once again, Frost is receiving buffs up here, and then Unholy seems to be receiving nerfs down here. Now, the Necrosis thing, it does seem to be getting buffed from 12 to 20%, which could be a big deal, and Scourge Strike is getting buffed a good amount as well. So maybe that will help offset the Death Coil thing. But I wonder why that they're making this nerf to the strength value. Just instead of 10%, it's 5% now. Either way, I mean, I wonder how these two buffs will help, you know, even out the Death Coil nerf, but we'll see. Either way, a lot of nerfs for Unholy, it looks like, except for all the way down here, which is cool. But, you know, a little bit of damage buff for Howling Blast for Frost. So, interestingly enough, you know, for PvP, a lot of players might continue to choose Frost over Unholy. But hey, I mean, people who like playing Unholy, keep the dream alive, keep trying it out. But if you get too frustrated, just, you know, get that dual spec, go ahead and play Frost for a while. But okay. Now, Ferocious Bite, for all the specs except Feral, looks like, has received buffs, and including the Feral has also received buffs. So those big juicy Ferocious Bites from Feral are going to be stinging even more than before. And it looks like, I'm not sure if really any of this is happening. Like, all this stuff gets taken out in favor of heals a friendly target for some amount of spell power, and it's not healing increase. Okay, so there's no base healing increase when you're casting it as like a well, as like any spec, I guess, as not a non-Boomkin spec, I guess. So Mangle for non-Feral is buffed. Mangle for Feral has been buffed. Starfall. Oh, Starfall. This scaling with your spell power has gone up by 15%. So we're this is what makes me giggle, is we're seeing Boomkin buffs again. Which is interesting. Thrash. I mean, I feel like bears do a lot of damage in PvE, so here's more damage for you guys in PvE. And Wrath, another Wrath buff. Okay, so we're seeing Boomkin buffs. Basically every spec of damage dealing Druid has been buffed right there for some of your main attacks. That's pretty nuts. I really don't want to come at this with like a seem like I'm complaining. It's definitely interesting, and once again, I want to hear your opinions on these things, because if you guys feel like you're really struggling as a Boomkin in RBGs, like, you know, I want to hear about that. But, you know, maybe instead of, I'm only quadrupling everyone else's damage. I mean, anyway, so the Force of Nature talent, the Wrath cast that they do is going to be buffed. Interesting. Nature's Vigil is this sounds like maybe just tooltip, maybe for 30 seconds. Yeah, that's like a tooltip clarification, I suppose. For 30 seconds, and then it's going to be doing 20% heals instead of 30. Okay. Well, healing is for only 20% of your healing and 40% of your damage. Okay. Cool, cool. For Resto, same deal. Similar description, except for, yeah, same thing. Pulverize, buff to 420%, nice. Stellar Flare, another buff, so that's another Boomkin buff, it looks like. So I'm wondering, are there any Boomkin nerfs? Because we also saw like their 4-piece and 2-piece was changed or whatever, so they also have a neat new mechanics on top of everything else. So Starfall, yep, we're seeing the buff over here with the spell power scaling. Starfire just straight up spell power scaling right here too. And Star Surge straight up spell cat. Oh my god. Mother of God. Oh boy. So some pretty serious Boomkin buffs right there on top of everything else. So this is so they're taking out the amount of healing, the increased healing from Healing Touch. So maybe they're making Feral a slightly less of an off healing spec, and we're just like, they're giving you damage in favor of off healing. So we'll see how Ferals feel about that. But yeah, a lot of Feral buffs right there. A lot of just straight up percentage buffs. Survival Instincts has a 6-second cooldown. Okay. Interesting. I don't know if that really helps Ferals out for the weaknesses they feel like they have in terms of their defensive cooldown usage, especially because they're receiving a little bit of a healing nerf in favor of more damage, but not a whole lot of defensive upgrades, so we'll see. So Guardian, just looking straight at just damage buffs. You can see the number in red is what it used to be, the number in green is what it is now. Those things were increased. I'm not really sure what happened with Genesis. I feel like... okay, they're just cleaning up the tooltip, I think. Yeah, same thing with Wild Growth, okay. And now there's a minor glyph change to this as well. So once again, this video could take a while, especially because we're looking at everything. But I mean, if you guys can deal with it, you know, you can be reading it along with me. And if you want to know my opinions, here they are. No, okay. So Untamed Stars makes your Starfall and Sunfall hit all enemies. There you go. So you just call the stars down on them, man. Orbital Beam Cannon, everybody. That's pretty nuts. Alright, so now we get to Hunters. So Hunters are another class that a lot of people consider to be pretty strong, right? Then right off the bat, we're seeing Arcane Shot buffed. Right off the bat, we're seeing Explosive... I mean, Explosive Trap isn't really a big damage ability, neither is Arcane Shot. But Glaive Toss buffed, Multi-Shot buffed, Steady Shot buffed, so, you know, improved Focus Fire. Focus Fire also now grants 5% increased attack power per frenzy stat consumed. So, you know, maybe small changes, but you know, a lot of increases in their numbers. Adaptation, their combat experience dropped or whatever. You know, their damage goes from 85% to 70. So there's that. But Focusing Shot is another talent that you can get. That got buffed substantially in terms of the damage it deals and the cast time, reduced cast time. Glaive Toss, as we saw, got buffed. Power Shot also got buffed. I remember my friend playing around with Power Shot a lot in beta. But yeah, that got buffed. Interesting. Steady Shot for Beastmaster and Survival. Using Cobra Shot twice in a row increases your focus regeneration for you and your pet. Okay. I don't know if that was the case before, if it was a tooltip change, or if it's a buff now. Kill Command got buffed substantially. Yeah, Kill Command for both specs got buffed substantially. I don't even know if, I mean, this is another turbo noob moment, but do Marksman and Survival even have Kill Command? I mean, I don't know. Shows how much I know. I do know that they have Kill Shot, and Kill Shot got buffed substantially as well, which is pretty funny. Cobra Shot buffed, Aim Shot buffed, Black Arrow buffed, Explosive Shot buffed, Surf Instinct doubled. So, I don't know, man. There's some pretty serious buffs going on for just about every spec of Hunter right now. So that is pretty gnarly. I do play with the Hunter a lot in 3, so I guess I'm not too mad about it, but there may be some people who consider Hunters to be a pretty powerful class who will be questioning why they got buffed. But you know what? Whatever. You know, I think a lot of what we're seeing is, so far at least, buffs across the board. So maybe everybody's going to be getting a little bit of damage increase, which is why they buffed the trinket bonus to an additional 5% mitigation. So whenever I see sweeping like damage changes, I feel like that's mostly PvE related, but it doesn't. I mean, you can't imagine it doesn't have an effect on PvP. But anyway, once again, we're gonna go through this quickly. Just about Arcane Missiles buffed, Frost Bomb buffed, Frostfire Bolt did receive a nerf. Frozen Orb was buffed. Another Tempest was buffed. Enhanced Pyrotechnics. Each time your Fireball or Frostfire Bolt fails to critically strike a target, those spells gain a stacking from 5% to 10% increased crit strike chance. It's pretty cool. Improved Water Elemental, also known as Water Jet. Dude, Water Jet's doing them big deeps right now. 35% of your spell power up from 28. Arcane Orb was buffed. Comet Storm was buffed. Frost Bomb, as we saw, was buffed. Ice Nova, oh mother of god, it got buffed too. Okay. Ice Nova got buffed. Again, Meteor got buffed. Another Tempest buffed. Supernova, small nerf. Okay. Arcane Barrage buffed. Arcane Blast buffed. Arcane Explosion buffed. For Frost and Arcane and Fire all buffed. Arcane Missiles got buffed. Okay. So they brought back PoM Poly, it looks like. Okay. 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 There's gonna be people who aren't happy about that. But whatever. That's what I'm guessing this means, is it brought back PoM Poly, dude. We out here. Okay. I mean, you can't really complain when, you know, Hunters can trap you every 12 seconds. I mean, like I said, I play with a Hunter. But, you know, instant CC, there's going to be a little bit more of it right now. Fireball, nerfed. Inferno Blast, nerfed. Molten Armor buffed. Pyroblast buffed. Handsoul will be pumped. Deep Freeze. Only damage from Ice Lance will break the effect. Oh. Oh, okay. So you can just cast some Frost Bolts into that bad boy and it won't break. Maybe, I don't know, I don't know. That'll be interesting. I don't know, man. Mages will find out an interesting way to use it, especially because Frostbolt was also buffed and it receives that 4-piece bonus where 30% increased damage whenever they're snared. So you just deep somebody and start pouring some Frostbolts into them, drop a Comet Storm, drop some Novas on them, Ice Novas. Whew. Scary stuff. Frozen Orb buffed. Ice Lance buffed. So once again, I don't play a mage. You guys know what you're talking about more than I do when it comes to the mages. Tell me what you think. From what I've seen, that's a lot of mage buffs and some powerful ones too. Changes to deep and changes to PoM to include polymorph. Woo! That's scary stuff. Alright, so Brewmaster. Well, I think monks are like one of the classes that have just had the crap kicked out of them the most since the very beginning. They are not even that good in PvP, but they're really good in PvE, so they keep getting hit with damage nerfs, which make them useless in PvP. The only thing that's insane is Brewmaster, and let me tell you, they don't care. They don't care at all. So have a look at these. Have a look at this. So buffs to Brewmaster, buffs to Mistweaver, all these things. You know, just in terms of the damage because they all use the same attacks or something. You know, so they all got buffed in terms of Blackout Kick. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. Once again, like there's just numbers everywhere, but the red numbers are smaller than the green numbers, which is a buff essentially, unless there's some sort of like calculation that I'm not doing with all this main hand DPS percent. But it looks pretty good so far. It looks like there's a lot of buffs going on here. It looks like there's buffs across the board in terms of just about everything that they do, which is interesting because they've just been nerfing the crap out of them ever since. But okay, Stance of the Fierce Tiger, the percent damage has been decreased, but all their abilities have been increased, so maybe they'll be alright. Okay. All these healing whatevers. Monks, I mean, I know some people love monks, but all this is just like kind of weird to me, which is fine. I mean, I have some understanding how to fight them in arena, but you know, for a Brewmaster or Windwalker while channeling Soothing Mist, this ability is instant will heal the soothed target. It's like, okay, all right. I don't know what it did before. That's all that different, but okay. So Tiger Palm buffed for everything. It looks like there's a slight buff and or change to Tiger Strikes. The way the monk has been redistributed, it looks like you deal 25% more auto attack damage with one-handed weapons, and then you attack 55% faster with two-handed weapons. So I'm not sure how that changes what monks buy, but it looks like they redistributed a little bit of it anyway. So obviously this is not reducing the cooldown of Chi Torpedo by 5,000 seconds. That's not quite right. But maybe there's some sort of buff and or nerf to the talent Celerity. Chi Explosion. This just says, all it says right here is for a reduced amount, so I don't really know what that means. Rushing Jade seems to receive a buff. So this is what's absolutely ridiculous. Like, is this real life right here? They actually doubled the effectiveness of Guard in terms of the way it scales through AP. Like, have you ever fought Brewmaster Monks in 2s or 3s and they use that 4-piece bonus where they shield their entire team for like 100k? Like, what does this mean? Is it gonna be like 150k now? I don't know, dude, but that's pretty messed up. Good thing they nerfed those damn Glad Stance warriors, I'll tell you what, dude. You know, people complain about a tank being in PvP, and Glad Stance wasn't even a tank, and they actually have a tank in PvP that does as much healing through absorbs as an actual healer does, and does pretty good damage too. So that's pretty absolutely insane. And they also looks like they got an increased stamina. The amount of increased stamina they get from their tanking stance went up. They have increased magical damage resistance, but you take a little bit more, I guess, physical damage, looks like. Okay. Okay. Actually, it just divides it up, so you take more damage over time versus up front. So, interesting. Brewmaster buffs. Interesting. Okay. So that will definitely have an effect on PvP in some way, in seeing that they received pretty much across the board damage buffs. Guard got buffed, and they're tankier. Good thing to nerf those damn Glass Dance Warriors. And it's not over yet. I mean, we're a little while away from Warrior. But they actually nerfed Prot Warriors more. But anyway. Okay, so looks like Life Cocoon has a decreased shielding effect. Revival has a decreased healing amount. And looks like these are just different tooltips. Windwalker, Fist of Fury has been buffed. Same thing for Mist Reaver. Does Mist Reaver, can they Fist of Fury people? I mean, I've never seen this. This is all new to me, I guess. Anyway, Rising Sun Kick buffed. Looks like across the board. Interesting. You have a new glyph of Blackout Kick. Your Blackout Kick always deals 30% additional damage over 4 seconds regardless of what positioning you're... Oh, okay. But you're unable to trigger the healing effect. Well, that's up to you. More damage, more healing. It's up to you. Alright, so... What is this? These are just pet changes, but I don't think... As far as I know, I don't think monks have pets, but anyway. Alright. You hanging in there with me? Alright, let's do this. So, Consecration. Looks like I got a tiny baby buff. So here's the fun part. Crusader Strike for Holy Protection and Ret got buffed. Hammer of the Righteous for all specs got buffed. And Hammer of Wrath for all specs got buffed. Okay. Glyph of Harsh Words. Increased amount of spell power to damage conversion. Judgment for all 3 specs got buffed. Word of Glory got buffed. Eternal Flame got buffed. Final Verdict. Oh god. Final Verdict went from 200% to 240% of weapon damage. Alright. Also increases the radius of your next Divine Storm by 50%. Alright. That's pretty nutso. And something's going on here with the tooltip, I guess. Holy Insight. Just tooltip changes, it looks like, maybe. Flash of Light. So here's a nerf to healing, but buffs to damage. That might be a theme here. Once again, for Prot, we're gonna see, looks like buffs just about across the board here. Yeah, Divine Storm also got buffed. Exorcism also got buffed, and Templar's Verdict, as we saw, also got buffed. Okay. So far we've seen buffs for pretty much everybody in terms of the damage department. So it's not just like, oh, they're buffing. I mean, like, the sort of cynical, the snide comment is, oh, you buff Rets, DKs, and Hunters. Like, what are you doing? And you buffed Brewmasters. But I guess they're just buffing everybody, so you kind of got to just bear with them on that one. Alright, so next up we've got Priests. Looks like Divine Star received buffs. And like I said, I am going through these pretty quickly. Holy Nova received nerfs. Mind Seer got buffed. Penance was buffed. Prayer of Mending jumps a lot more than before, like double for every spec. Like we said, Divine Star got buffed. Insanity, what are these? Is this a tooltip change? Yeah, it is. It's just a tooltip change. Holy Nova, Penance. Holy Nova, nerf, Penance buffed. Holy, tooltip change. Ooh, looks like Shadow Mastery got buffed up to 25%. Mind Blast was buffed. Mind Flay was buffed. Mind Spike was buffed. Shadow Word Death for every spec was buffed by a lot. Wow. Rogue. Okay, so once again, we're gonna see some rogue buffs. And as you can see, I had my WoW in the background, so I could record this and just kick me to the login screen, so you're gonna get some background noise. It's okay. Ambush got buffed for all specs. Blade Flurry got buffed. Eviscerate, the way I see it, got buffed. For Assassination in Combat, I don't think it got buffed for Subtlety, so they actually nerfed Subtlety. Interesting. Okay, Deadly Throw. It looks like there's a tooltip error. They just spelled points wrong, maybe. Fixing that. Assassination received a little passive nerf. Venomous Wounds received a passive buff, though. Assassination and Subtlety. Rupture received a buff. We saw Blade Flurry got a buff, and Vitality for Combat Rogues got buffed. Backstab got buffed, Hemorrhage got buffed, and Sanguinary Vein got buffed as well. So pretty much across the board rogue buffs, except for that one Evisceration nerf for subtlety for some reason. Whatever. But yeah, buff rogues too. Alright, so the trend continues. So for shamans, just going down the line real quick. You know, look at the red number, look at the green number. If the green number's higher, the ability got buffed. That looks like it was the case for Chain Lightning. Looks like it was definitely the case for Storm Strike. From 250 to 360. Wind Strike. I guess that's your Ascendance thing? Maybe? It's just the same thing as Storm Strike then. You know, same buffs. Just keeping it in line. Enhanced Chain Lightning. Looks like a tooltip change. Except it makes your Earthquake do 300 times damage instead of 40. Okay. It's pretty nuts. I guess it's a PvE thing though. Talents for Elemental Blast across the board got buffed by a good amount. So it looks like they're just changing the tooltip for Ascendance for Elemental. Earthquake, once again. Looks like they might just be cleaning up the tooltip or giving it more damage, I'm not sure. They definitely give you more damage on Chain Lightning. Lava Burst for Elemental and Resto. That's a pretty substantial buff too. Looks like a tooltip change. Fire Nova looks like it got nerfed to make it only hit 7 targets. But your Lava Lash did get buffed by a good amount as well. Maelstrom Weapon. Interesting. So it's not going to affect the mana cost. So a spell that you cast with Maelstrom Weapon is still going to cost just as much as it always did. But it'll cast faster. Okay, there you have it. But it doesn't apply to you know, your res or hex. But we already knew that. Storm Strike, like we said, it got buffed. Interesting. Resto, Ascendance, tooltip change. Restorative Waves though increases all healing done by 30% of healing from water totems. Okay, interesting. A little bit of healing buffs for those guys. So for a Warlock, we have what looks like buffs on Agony, but there's an Affliction. Well, I guess for every spec, Corruption is being nerfed just by a little bit. I don't know why it has Corruption listed twice, but whatever. Looks like Corruption got nerfed just about across the board. Rain of Fire. Ooh, Rain of Fire got nerfed big time. Ouch. And UA got buffed though. Okay. Just a little tinkering with their numbers, looks like. Although Demon Bolt, you know, that super OP ability did get nerfed by a lot. Affliction, you can see. Well, why is it saying now Affliction got, or Agony gets buffed? Oh, okay, it was 30. My bad. Yeah, no, we knew that. We knew that. So it got buffed there. Corruption got nerfed. Agony is just letting us know it got buffed again. UA got buffed as well. Demonology got nerfed. That damn Demonology spec, dude. It's too OP. Please nerf. Destro looks like it's receiving buffs on a lot of its main abilities. Chaos Bolt, can flag. Havoc has a 20-second cooldown instead of 25. Yowza. Immolate receiving buffs. Incinerate receiving buffs. Rain of Fire got nerfed. Shadowburn got buffed as well. I mean, all these changes, like a lot of the damage, like we're seeing damage buffs across the board for everything, including, believe it or not, Warriors. But Warriors, in classic fashion, received some really just weird changes. So we're seeing Execute. It says Execute offhand for arms and prod. I mean, you're not gonna execute somebody with a shield, like, but whatever. Execute offhand, whatever that means. Goes from 320 to 350. Ravager got nerfed. You know, that damn Ravager doesn't really change anything in terms of the PvP, because, you know, most likely you're not using Ravager in PvP. If you are, please stop. It got nerfed anyway. Whirlwind, in terms of your offhand ability for arms, I don't know what that means. Does that just mean in general? Whirlwind gets nerfed to 140% weapon damage. Same thing with Fury. It got nerfed. And proc. Okay? So we're seeing a lot of the same changes before. Although Slam, that darn OP talent that everybody was taking in his arms, got nerfed. So that one warrior in EU who was going like crit multi-strike using Slam is going to be really sad, because he discovered something that nobody else knew, and now it's gotten nerfed. So I'm sorry, mate. Sudden Death. I'm pretty sure this is just a tooltip change, because it still said it was 10% chance, but everybody knew it was proc per minute. So I'm pretty sure that's just a tooltip change. Once again, we're seeing Execute. taking, I guess, being buffed. This is just arms though, so it looks a little different. The base damage of execute is being buffed, and then it's the extra rage brings it up to 350. So there's that. And we're seeing once again, Whirlwind has been nerfed for every spec of warrior. Bloodthirst, no damage increase, but has an increased chance to crit from 30 to up to 40 now. And once again, they really want us to understand that execute has been buffed. Okay, they nerfed Whirlwind, execute has been buffed. Okay, it's an important thing to know. Devastate, whoa, what is this? A 10% buff on Devastate? Hello, Glad Stance viable again. Oh, JK. Revenge got nerfed, and Shield Slam got nerfed. So, GG. Hopes and dreams dashed. This is what really killed us more than anything in terms of Glad Stance. The Shield Slam will now correctly read that you have to be in defense stance to use it, which makes you useless. Orc. Everybody's gonna go Orc again because you have a 15% racial instead of just 10%. Will this Forsaken a 2-minute cooldown, so in before everybody rerolls. Horde again. I think that takes us through just about all the class changes. Thank you for bearing with me. I feel like this was like an hour-and-a-half long video because I had to like be monotone the whole time. But from what it looks like to me, just about across the board, everybody received a lot of damage buffs. Probably due to PvE reasons. So instead of being like, oh man, you know, wouldn't you believe it, Rets and DKs got buffed again. It's like, well, everybody sort of got buffed except for warriors. They buffed execute, but then they nerfed Whirlwind. So whatever you want to make of that. Same thing with some of these prot abilities. I mean, I really don't know why they hate prot warriors so much, but whatever. Looks like across the board damage buffs. A little bit of changes to the Boomkin and Mage set pieces. I think the changes to Mages are probably what catches my eye the most because just percentage bonuses, like, they can make you viable for sure, but actual ability changes are kind of the biggest deal. Like PoM Poly being back and Deep Freeze not breaking except to Ice Lance, that's kind of a big deal. So Mages will be happy to hear that. I think a lot of classes will be happy with some buffs they're receiving. I think a lot of those damage buffs may have to be toned down a little bit by this PvP. 50% less damage from players from having double trinkets, so that's gonna discourage players even more from using PvE trinkets in PvP. But some people will still do it because their classes are tanky, like DKs and locks and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, thank you for bearing with this video. I only managed to have to stop the video to cough like twice, which is good. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.